wouldn't use the Big Bang as an evidence for God creating, certainly not. I mean, that's, after all, a secular alternative to the Bible, really. I mean, most of my professors, I didn't see them in church on Sunday. Most of them were secular astronomers, and they believed in the Big Bang.
But again, my doctor doesn't go to church either, and the fact is I still let him do surgery on me, I let him do, you know, dentistry and so on. The fact is, are people that are non-Christians, are they not allowed to look at evidence?
Well, they can look at evidence, and in fact, they really, in order to do science, they have to borrow some Christian principles anyway, I would say. They have to assume that the universe is logical.
But if they're able to do that in medicine and other disciplines, why can't they do it in astronomy?
Oh, well, they can do it in astronomy. But the thing is, when we talk about the Big Bang, we're not talking about observational science, are we? We're not talking about something that we can observe in the present. We can't make a universe in a laboratory and see what happens when it expands and so on.
We can't observe it, Jason.
Well, no, we can't observe it. We can't observe the Big Bang. I mean, I understand what you're saying about looking, you know, out into space, and a lot of astronomers would say, well, aren't you looking back into time? But the thing is, you know, even if we were to buy into that, you're looking into the past, you're looking at the past over there and not the past here anyway. The point is, you're only looking at one point in time. You don't have a history by looking out into space. You don't have a complete history, and that's one of the limitations of observational science.
Well, here's how you do have a complete history. I mean, you made the point that we can look at different epochs in time, but we can also test whether or not the universe is homogeneous and uniform, whether the laws of physics are constant over that entire period of time. And we observe that, which means we really do have a trustworthy history of everything from, say, 380,000 years after the creation event right up to the present moment, 13.7 billion years later.
Well, I would say that there are a lot of hidden assumptions, and you have to be very careful about that. One of the assumptions, for example, of the Big Bang is that the universe is sort of infinitely distributed with galaxies. Let's suppose instead that the galaxies ended beyond where we can see them. In other words, let's suppose that we were roughly in the center, and then after a certain point, you don't find any more galaxies, because that is what we see. We don't see galaxies beyond a certain point. My Big Bang colleagues assume that galaxies continue beyond that point, and they have reasons why they believe we can't see them, the cosmic horizon and so on. But the Big Bang assumes that. We don't know that it's true, though. That's one of the hidden assumptions. And in fact, any kind of argument that's going to argue for the Big Bang or for the millions of years relies on certain assumptions. And I'll try to point those out throughout this forum.
Big Bang history. The Big Bang theory was proposed shortly after Einstein developed his theory of general relativity, and we had the scientific community from a naturalistic perspective rejecting it because it spoke of a beginning and a beginner. They fought against the Big Bang, and it was only after 60 years that they finally said the scientific evidence is so strong, in spite of the obvious Christian implications, we're stuck with this. For example, there's this book called God and the Astronomers, written by Robert Jastrow, Harvard University, not a Christian, he's an agnostic. And yet he writes a faithful history where he talks about how astronomers fought the Big Bang tooth and nail because of it spoke of God, and finally they were forced by the evidence to accept the fact, hey, this is the way reality is. If it's got Christian implications, if it denies Hinduism and Buddhism and pantheism and atheism, so be it, we're stuck.